Today on Unsolved Florida, we're going to be talking about the unsolved homicide in Arcadia, Florida. Joseph Kinville was only 16 years old when he was fatally stabbed in the chest. It's been 26 years since his murder and no one has been held accountable. Joseph was the oldest of two boys and he was very close to his mother, Kathy. His father was estranged from them and lived in Michigan at the time of his death. Joseph took on a lot of the fatherly role in the home, even working part-time as an orange picker for several citrus growers. Friends and family say he willingly did it to help his family and always had a smile on his face and always wanted to help others. In February of 1999, Joseph, his mother Kathy, and his younger brother Justin, who was only 14 at the time, left their home in Plant City to spend the weekend in Arcadia. The family had previously lived there for several years prior to moving to Plant City and often went back on weekends to visit friends and family. Once the family arrived for the weekend in Arcadia, Joseph's mom stayed at a friend's trailer and the boys headed out to visit friends. On Monday morning, his mom was packing to make the trip back home to Plant City when she noticed Joseph hadn't come back to their friend's trailer. He didn't have to be there the night prior, but he knew they were supposed to leave Monday morning. His brother Justin said that he had last seen Joseph at 11 p.m. at a friend's house where they were together. The night before, when he mentioned stopping by an ex-girlfriend's house and maybe going to a party. By midday, his mom called the sheriff's office and mentioned he may have ran away because he didn't want to go home to Plant City. Because of that statement, the sheriff's office did not put any urgency into looking for Joseph Kinville. That was until a few hours later when a body was discovered about 1.5 miles away from the place the family was staying. Sadly, a passerby noticed a hand sticking out of the grass on the side of the road and immediately called 911. When first responders reached the scene, they found a teenage boy still fully clothed. The coroner did an autopsy and used a Polaroid photo as a source of identification. Joseph suffered massive blood loss, especially in the chest and abdomen area. The coroner's report stated that the autopsy determined a severe stab wound pierced the victim's heart and caused his death. The initial investigation by police was relatively slow. The crime scene was off the road and in the grass. There was no murder weapon left behind. According to online sources, Joseph had a high blood alcohol level. The police interviewed his friends that were at the party and learned that Joseph had gotten into a fight the night before because of his ex-girlfriend's current boyfriend confronting him. However, this ex-girlfriend has stated that there was no fight, but Joseph did stop by her house that evening before going to another party. Police have stated that all of the potential leads turned out to be dead ends and there was no progress in the case for weeks, then months, and now years. An interesting turn in this case revealed by the media is that in July of 1999, the same year that Joseph was murdered, his father was also murdered in Saginaw, Michigan. News sources reported that he allegedly owed money to a drug dealer in Michigan who shot him in the back of the head as revenge. His killer was named James Washington III and was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 60 years in prison in 2018. Apparently, it has been determined that his father's murder and his have no connection, although over the years, various theories have turned up. Apparently, Joseph had also witnessed a fatal stabbing just months before his own murder, but the police investigated that and announced it was not connected. Another very interesting thing about this case is that Joseph's mother actually received a letter from a correctional facility that detailed everything that happened to her son the day of his murder. However, when the mother turned the letter over to the police, the lead was not pursued, and his murder is still unsolved to this day. The police dismissed the note from a current inmate in prison because he was incarcerated at the time of Joseph's murder, and they called it a hoax. The police say that they welcome any information on Joseph's case. So briefly, I just want to mention my thoughts on this case, and you guys let me know in the comments what you think. So briefly, I just want to mention my thoughts on this case, and you guys feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. For one, the ex-girlfriend insisting that there was no confrontation at the party, I do think that witness statements can be unreliable. She could be downplaying her involvement in the case. Also, the body was dumped off the side of a busy road. It's not a concealed area, so to me this means perhaps it was urgent, spur of the moment. They had to get him dumped somewhere. Also, there were no defensive wounds notated in the autopsy, and this strikes me as odd. However, I do think this could be explained by the high level of alcohol and cannabis that the coroner reported was in his system. As I mentioned before, his father was a drug user, but his mother has been absolutely adamant that Joseph was not. And since there were no recreational drugs except for cannabis found in his system, I tend to agree with that. The perpetrator for the stabbing incident that Joseph had witnessed prior to his own passing was incarcerated at the time, but as you know, there could always be a connection that the police did not find. How could someone in prison know all the information about Joseph's death to write a note to his family? The police haven't said a lot about it, but his mother is adamant about its importance. The inmate had Kathy's address, suggesting personal knowledge of the family since they were in Plant City and not Acadia anymore. Because normally you could get it from the Yellow Pages, the book that they send out that has everyone's address, but they no longer lived in that city. Kathy, his mother, has also said in news reports that the police found blood that did not belong to Joseph at the crime scene, which is huge because she does not know if the DNA has been tested or if the evidence still exists. If you have any information regarding the death of Joseph Kinville, please call the Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers at 1-800-780-8477. All callers remain anonymous, and you may be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000 for information. Again, I do think this case is very solvable, and his mom is very active on Facebook trying to get information about her 16-year-old son's murder. So please, if you have any information, even if it's the smallest piece of information you don't think is helpful, just call Crime Stoppers anyway and let them decide if it is helpful. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time at Unsolved Florida.